What's up, everybody? It's Tim Kulig, Free Music Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Kulig, and I've got Tom Seymour today. What's up, buddy?
Hey, I'm Tom Seymour with VHS Masker, and we're going to be talking about various subjects today. The theme of the show is pushing through, and
That's an apt description, Tom.
I think every show should have a theme. But you're starting to crank out music again.
Yes,
and
yes. Tom got up my ass the last month. Just so everybody knows, this is what best friends do. We hammer each other when we're not being what is it? Not resourceful. What's the word I'm looking for, Tom? Productive, or if we're not following through on our own devices, our own goals and everything else. Not to say that I haven't been. I definitely needed a break. But here's the thing. I figured something out, Tom. I have too many partial projects on my hard drive. So that's why I'm doing this current project now, which is try to find any and all of the pieces that I can actually develop now, like immediately develop, and get them published and polished and sent out as quickly as possible. And then anything else that's been sitting there, some of those projects, dude, are like 2, 3, 4 years old. And I keep coming back to them thinking like, I'm going to be able to do something with that. No, that was just, sometimes you write stuff and it's like this empty, I just need to get this out of me so I can go and make the better thing. Do you know what I mean?
You explore a cavern to a dead end.
Yeah.
But the map is cleared and then you can go back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sure that happens with video editing all the time. I'm sure you go down a rabbit hole and you're like, okay, I'm going to edit this 5-minute segment and I'm almost certain it's not going to fit, but I need to know, because if it does, it's going to be something different than I've ever done. Like that kind of stuff, right? Like you push the envelope and you're like, nah, it just doesn't fit in. You know, we have constant conversations, Tom and I, about how the editing process changes the entire narrative, specifically in documentary, because documentary, like, you're searching for the overarching meaning of the whole thing that you're making. You start out with like this hypothesis and this thesis, but it rarely, if ever, ends up being what you estimated in the beginning, right? Like, it's the story's never what we had in the beginning, typically.
Yeah, they really, from some initial pitch thing, by the time it's done, it barely resembles the pitch. This is a problem I had with back in the day. I used to work for companies like Black 20, NBC Universal, College Humor. Even I dipped my toe in there, and like someone would come up with a pitch, and it was very shallow, and the pitch sounded good, and then often it fell upon me to make it into something,
right?
And I actually think that's actually the problem with modern Hollywood, is that you get salespeople who go in there and they have a good pitch. It's just sort of J.J. Abrams, like magic trick. Pitch sound awesome. Yeah, but there's nothing to it. It's bullshit. And then some poor bastard has to go and try to make something out of it. I think that's essentially modern Hollywood. But that being said, I mean, back to your music. The exploration of ideas is very important to bring it all the way through to find out whether if it's valid or non-valid.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now. So currently I'm working on what I call like an electronic blended album. So I define that because none of them really fall into any specific category. None of them are techno. None of them are glitch necessarily. It's just kind of a weird mixed bag of electronic music type of stuff. And so that's going to be somewhere between 6 and 8 tracks. I'll know this week. And then once I'm going through the review process with that, on the tail end of that, I have easily 16 to 24 orchestral pieces that can be developed. And those will take a couple of weeks. So I'm estimating that between now and the end of the year, I'll average somewhere between 20 and 40 a month, hopefully, if I can keep the pace right, of these back catalog things, and also some new stuff, because I'm still going to do that Monday, Friday thing, bring in some new ideas and everything, and probably still end up publishing 150 to 200 this year. But a lot of it's going to be very much production stuff. So not your typical tune with all the parts and everything, sometimes just beds, sometimes just intros, that kind of thing. I really want to clean the palette of all those things. I've been telling myself and my audience for a year and a half now at this point that I've been wanting to do some of those other projects. And I need to get them off my plate so I can, like you said, clear your head and do all that. That being said, clearing the plate, clearing, things, I made the determination about a month and a half ago that it was time to start differentiating between the overarching brand and this, right? And the podcast. So me and Liz went down a rabbit hole about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and started developing a site specifically to the podcast. So I'm going to show a little bit of that in this whole thing here, if I can find the freaking tab that it's in.
Sorry, I have to keep taking my glasses off. They're literally fogging up because I had the AC going, and I worked out, and then I just turned the AC off, and now it's like my glasses keep fogging up.
Can you see this?
Me. Yeah. Oh, okay. Hey, great.
Cool. So here, let me get back to the homepage. So starts off with a homepage, same branding, same color and everything else, but now just the podcast.
What's the URL?
URL is tkfmpodcast.com. So real simple, real easy to remember. My initials, free, Tim Kulig Free Music Podcast. FM's also got that double entendre of, FM, radio or whatever. So that was an accident. That was not planned, but it was a fun accident. So now part of this is that I'm trying to build an email list of people that are interested in the show. I've gotten an uptick in interest in the show where I have unsolicited folks, in a good way, unsolicited folks emailing me saying they want to be on the show after they've listened to another show. And I know it's not like 100% bot because they're referencing details of the show that somebody would have to have watched or at least scrubbed the show to get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're definitely real people. In fact, I have 2 folks next week that I have a discovery call with, based on an email inquiry they had sent to me, and I'm like, great, here's my Calendly, section. Here's the days I'm available. Boom. So that's part of this now. Like, so there's a listen now that brings you to the episodes tab. Be a guest. That's actually a form. I can actually click on it to show you.
I love that, by the way. When I went on the website, the Be a Guest tab, I was like, dude, that's such a wonderful thing. Because it's not only, it's a formal way, like the internet needs more of this shit, more transparency and more like, fill out a form and we'll try to, your time is finite, but you'll try to have them on,
Yeah.
And more of that versus this, like, I'm going to DM someone and like there's a 1 in 100 chance they're ever going to get back to you. Like, enough of that stuff. I think.
Yeah. That very informal communication, right? I mean, even email to some degree, like that you can get lost in the threads, right? Going back and forth.
Well, AI has really messed up people's email. There was this prominent Scottish filmmaker who I got an email from. My instinct was this was not right, but I was like, it had all his contact information. So I was very polite and I'm like, oh, this is like an agent. This is like an AI agent for this filmmaker.
Right.
But it did a huge disservice to him because I think far less of this filmmaker now.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that a little bit too, I think, because we're going to start seeing an overarching issue with that in the coming years as more and more people adopt these new technologies. If it's the prominent forefront, I think they're going to get lost in the shuffle because everybody's going to sound the same. So if you don't have that personal hands-on value add, it's going to outlive all of that. I don't care what anybody said. Like for the interim, corporations and stuff are going to try to downsize and do everything they can to capitalize on this stuff, but you're going to see pushback. It's like sending a call center to a country that has a difficult time with the English language. It just discourages your user base and your customer base, and they end up going elsewhere. And I'm not being in any way, shape, or form xenophobic or anything like that whatsoever. It's just the reality. If you can't communicate properly, it becomes a problem, right?
Well, I mean, that to support that argument, the automated like I don't know how you say it. When you call up, you get the machine, you get the robot voice.
Sure. Yeah.
If that tree is too large, press 1 for blah, press 2 for. That's infuriating.
Well, I just spam the 0 button, or I'm like operator op. I just say operator until the program defaults.
Yeah.
It pushes me out. But all the more reason I'm doing this, where I have a Calendly account and I have days where you can sign up and do like a 15-minute discovery. It's not limited to that. If we end up talking for a half an hour or something, that's fine too. But ultimately, it's about, hey, is this a good fit for both of us? And should we talk, or should we do whatever? Because it's not just as a guest. There's other options on my site as well. So, it shows the latest episode with Katie McGrath. I learned how to say her name properly. If you watch the episode, it's not McGrath. It's McGrath. It's the right way to pronounce her last name. There's a quick bounce out to my website. So there's that cross posting. There's a blog post and all these stuff. I see there's still some stuff that has to get fed. This is live, but it's we're still working out some of the kinks. So if you see anything on here that's not like a link that doesn't work or something like that, just email Tim at timkulig.com and we'll get it fixed up, and we'll be very much appreciative of it. But so that's the main page. There's a little background about on here. Loads up here. A little background on me. Little picture. My IMDb profile. Got to change the font size on some of this stuff. But there's the various episodes here. You could just book calls with me and stuff too. There's a connection page that you can literally just reach out and messenger me. Interact on Instagram, and then I have a Discord server dedicated specifically to the music and the podcast. So that's a whole community I'm going to develop over the next year that will have a lot of the stuff that's on socials and everything, but a little more intimate setting where you can talk in message threads and stuff like that. And then ultimately, this is a repository for all the episodes too. This is punches to all the episodes on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And literally just plays in browser. So you don't have to navigate to it. You just come to the website and look at it. And Liz is doing an awesome job with these thumbnails.
Oh, yeah, I love them. Great job.
They're Tom, they're like a really good at a glance. And I'm going to start replacing the ones that I have on YouTube with these as an example, because this will be the pause. So if you're on a browser, on a phone, it's a little harder to read. And even when this thing isn't fully, when this is somewhat minimized, you can't read some of the details as much either. But I kind of like all the information there. In fact, Ryan, my buddy that did and developed timkulig.com with his wife, Michelle, he said specifically, he's like, I love these thumbnails. He goes,
they're great, yeah.
And he's a developer who would probably default in an area of, let's go minimalist and what the algorithm likes or whatever. He's like, no. I kind of like it because I see everything that it's going to be about, and it helps me decide whether I want to watch that episode or not. So I kind of like that a lot, So I've just done this recently this week, yesterday, the day before, we did a MailChimp integration here. So if you sign up in this bar, you'll get the blog posts. And then any other communication that I do, I got to fix this. I don't elevate content, but that's a different post. Oh, that was a sample one. She was testing things out yesterday, and I have to delete that post. But it'll send out an email every time we send something. And then there's other things I can do for MailChimp to that whole mail list. So if there's like a special event coming up, or I'm going to do a live stream, anything like that. So some really, really, really cool stuff coming down the pipeline, and just pumped. Did I stop it? Did I stop sharing?
Yeah, we're back.
Okay, right. And we're back.
I'm excited for you, man. I was editing this documentary that Tim and I are working on called Enter the Television, about the dark corners of television advertising and unconventional like cable TV. And so I was going through Tim's catalog, and Tim had put out hundreds of songs literally last year. And although I sampled probably almost all of them, because now my mind is set on the specific project, going back to the albums, like a lot of the tracks speak to me more. One album, I think it's called I Kardashev.
Yeah, that's right.
And had a number of tracks. What was that one? Docking
on the Dance Floor, I think it's called.
It's like this really introspective, creepy sci-fi tune. Interesting drums. I can't recommend that more. And then the other one, Borked Git, I believe it's called, that's got some cool tracks on. It just so happens to vibe with the trying to make like mysterious tech, essentially, is the kind of the theme of Enter the Television, you know.
I never know what people are going to use for what. It's crazy. You know, like way back in the beginning when I released that album that had Here Be Dragons on it, some Ukrainian or Russian rescue operation did drone footage of, what was it? It was like a fuel
water
tower
rescue. Yeah,
it was like a water tower rescue, or like a fuel tower that was getting like hit with foam or something because it was like a fire issue happening or something like that. And they're playing that like dramatic tune I'm like, I just never know. I never know what people are going to use what for. So I put it in categories, but ultimately the end user is like, you know, this is going to sync up nicely with what I'm doing. I just love that discovery. That's why I go out there and do the YouTube gratitude stuff at least once a month.
Yep.
Because it's nice to see what's people are using it for. Some new users that jump into because invariably new people discover me, and I see some new channels using stuff, and it's really kind of neat. It's kind of amazing. That's why I think this is the best way to write music, because you're not beholden to like a specific project, and then you're twisting and turning the song to adhere to what your customer needs or whatever. Now, if you make enough songs, somebody's going to find something that's going to work for their project, right? And I feel like that's so much more, even if you slow it down or you only use a portion of it or what, I don't give a shit about that. Like I could really care less. If there's a portion of it that speaks to you and your project, great, use it, you know? But I just can't, I don't know if I could ever write that way again.
Well, it's creative freedom. And, I always appreciated when you scored like a lot of my films back in the day, but I knew it's hard. Like it's, I don't think I'm particularly difficult to work with, but at the same time, when you need specific music and you have to go back and forth with the composer, I've been at that end, and it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Because you're using your creative fuel and they want to change things, and you're like, if they change it too much, then it's like
it's hard to maintain the vibe, you know?
Yeah, and it's less yours, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a valid point.
So I think what you're doing, in a weird way, you're more free than most musicians, because the audience, and your audience is not only listeners, it is people who watch the programming that your music is used for, and your audience and your fan is also industry people who are placing the music.
Right.
You know, so it's a really nice mix.
Yeah. It's definitely a longer path. Even though this August will make it 5 years that I've been super serious about publishing music. So August of 2021 is when I released, what was it? The first D&D album, and that first Meditations album was shortly to follow. One or two of those, one or the other of those were in front of each other. But that's when I got real serious. I published like everything I had on my hard drive that was worth publishing to the end of the year, and some other albums before December 31st in 2021. And then I just went hog wild since then. And now I'm just rekindling the fire July of 2026 after a few month hiatus. I didn't do nothing this year. I did the Arc Raiders album, which I was pretty happy with.
Arc Raiders album's fantastic. I've used a bunch of those tracks, and I mean, you have a lot to do. I mean, you're running your own business, so there's a lot that you're doing behind the scenes. and planning, and sometimes you just have to like figure stuff out. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole launch of the podcast is a separate thing. What would you call it? It's just a separate.
It's like a spin-off of the brand, you know, like
Yeah,
its
yeah, yeah.
own website. It's I haven't done the socials yet, but that's probably coming down the pipeline. Right now, I'll keep it associated with everything else. It just makes things a little easier. But having its own website, I think, is going to be, especially with the signups and everything, and that really simple, modern, crisp look, and the professionalism of being able to do a discovery call and everything else. I think it's just going to add to the value the brand has to bring to the table, and just the collaborations in general. I mean, that's ultimately where all this stuff is going to grow, is through collaborations, you know? So,
Yeah.
but I'm very interested to talk about the current status of the festival run for Video Dreams, and also get back into the stuff with Enter the Television and where we're at with some of that. So I know you have notes in front of you, so I'll let you
Yeah.
take the lead.
All right. Let me look here. So Video Dreams. So Video Dreams has been in the festival circuit for over a year now, and that's not atypical. A film can tour in the festival circuit from a year to 2 years even, and depending if it's still being accepted and still playing. So some of the cool things that have happened is that the Sundance Film Festival in San Francisco, which I love San Francisco, by the way, they awarded us, it's an honorable mention award for best documentary, which is a really nice thing. They basically said that their programming is really tight for the year, so they're playing a number of shorts and maybe just a few features, but they wanted to do something for us, and so they gave us this honorable mention award, which I think is wonderful. That festival's been going on for 10 years, so it's become a staple of San Francisco, and it's really very cool counterculture in the best way. Like if you go to the website Scumdance, it's like, like green slimy writing with like a pink background, and it's very like, it's like they like trashy B movies and interest, like weird experimental art stuff. And but they're also like, don't be a jerk. Like we don't want like horrible. Don't send us something awful. Like,
Yeah.
it's we don't play snuff videos or something like that. So like no adult films. Okay,
Yeah.
there's a line.
Yeah.
So they seem like a very cool team. So that was really cool. And so growing up, like, Tim and I grew up with these independent film boom. And so like Sundance and Slamdance was this huge thing that like the filmmakers at the time really aspired to try to get into, even though it was very difficult. It's almost like getting into Harvard or something. It's extremely rare to get into those, especially now. It's borderline impossible.
Yeah.
But
Well, we've talked about that in the past, how it's in essence an extension of the
yeah,
studio
Sundance
system.
is
Yeah.
not. Even if you do a Google search, it will essentially say that Sundance doesn't really take independent films.
Yeah.
Which sounds
Yeah.
like that can't be true. But no, it's just a showcase for studio films, or films that are like have signed on. I mean, maybe they were independently made, but they were bought and then placed.
Right. Right.
So, but these dance film festivals, there was dozens of them that sprang up. Dances with Films was another very big one, and then like there was like No Dance and Slum Dance, I think, was for a while. Van Dance was this guy who had a van and would just pull up in Park City and project films onto his van. Like it was like a whole thing
What's the dance come from?
from Sundance, which from Robert Redford, Butch Cassidy, and the Sundance Kid. So
Okay.
Redford started Slam Dance. Sundance became such American symbol of independent film that everyone, like literally dozens of people, spun off of this concept dance. In the United Kingdom, Rain Dance is the top film festival, and Rain Dance, obviously, because presumably it rains a lot in England. I'm assuming. Otherwise, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So yeah, it became almost like a word synonymous with independent film, even though most of those film festivals are not accessible to any
The irony is
grassroots
that,
ever. Yeah, I know. It's even Redford said it was a problem, a few, years ago before he passed.
and
Obviously
that
before he
was,
passed, not after when he passed. Anyway,
but that was his whole idea behind it, right? Was to celebrate independent film.
yeah, he really
Yeah.
was. He really helped to build a whole edifice for independent filmmaking, and there was a number of independent film distributors that popped up. A lot of it had to do with there was some legislation. Lloyd Kaufman talks about this actually in Enter the Television, about how some of the studios had to break up. I think this is in the 50s and the 60s. The movie studios couldn't also own the theaters. And there was a lot of breaking up of conglomerates, which allowed all these independent studios to come up, like AIP and Troma and stuff like that. And then more in the 70s and 80s. And then, but then you had a lot of indie labels like Shooting Gallery, obviously Miramax, troubled past. Anyway, a lot of these independent film companies popped up and started distributing film. So there was a real thing. Now that's been weakened in the past 30 years. It's really been weakened, and there are indie distributors still holding on. Of course, I always like Full Moon or Troma. Even Ron Bonk, SRS, seems to have carved out a real legacy for himself. Anyway,
yeah, our talk several weeks ago, it's just amazing that he always seems to have been, a couple steps in front of what the industry's doing and capitalizing on that. And even these Indiegogo campaigns for some of these films that we get involved with, like, it's brilliant how it works. The concept to initial funding to, the extended funding rounds that they have, like round 2, 3, and everything else based on the last one. I think it was funded within 24 hours. Like, yeah, great. There's a lot of interest in it. We'll add to the budget and make an even better film, so
yeah,
it's
that's
just a lot of fun.
Two we're involved in is Emotional Support Shark.
Yep.
And then the one that we're all excited about is Shark Rooms, of course.
Yeah.
Which is, the back rooms are filled with sharks, which I
love it.
I'm like, go for it, man.
Yeah.
I want to see that movie.
It's no more ridiculous than Sharknado. I mean,
no.
You know what I mean? And just easily just as plausible. Yeah. So,
but anyway, circling back to dance films, it was nice to get with this film, Video Dreams, which is a documentary about the last 30 years of independent filmmaking. And it is more autobiographical, Tim included also, but it actually functions as 30 years of kind of American independent film history.
Yeah, definitely does.
So I think that's why festivals have been responding to it, because it's a personal story, but functions as historical.
Yeah, we piggyback off of a little bit some of the things we've talked about in the VHS Massacre movies, but more from the end, like the end producer, director, composer side of things, and you kind of see it in the production wing as opposed to the overarching things that we talked about in some of those movies about how the decline of physical media, everything else, and just how we get things into people's faces after 30 years later. I mean, dude, the first, what was it, Thrill Kill Jack, we did a premiere in a
Holiday
hotel
Inn.
Holiday Inn, which was well attended, by the way.
Yeah,
fine, and it freaking, what was it, the Bristol Press or the Herald came and did a front page interview about it. It was freaking front page. Like, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Dude, you're 19. You're 19 years old, dude.
Yeah, well, one thing is, like, the power of delusion, right? So I didn't know. I was just calling up newspapers. Hey, I got this movie, blah, 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 blah. Like, I didn't know, like, if that was a ridiculous thing to do or not. I was like, there was this thing that happened there was all these no-name filmmakers who, come to find out, there was a lot of bullshit happening behind the scenes where people were brought into fame, and it wasn't as simple or as clean as this one guy just pulled up his bootstraps and made it happen. But that is the story they fed to everyone. And so I was like, well, if Robert Rodriguez or Matt Damon can do it, of course I can do it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So like we didn't know any better. We get rejected from film festivals. We just book a holiday in to projector. We chip in, you know, it's like 3 or 4 of us. It wasn't that much, you know, we all had shitty jobs at various food, like restaurants or video stores, and called up the newspaper. And so, yeah, like we made, we still didn't get a distribution deal that with the next 2 films, like that took later. So anyway, that's what Video Dreams is about. And so we're still in the film festival circuit, and
we got 12 left. About 12, about a dozen.
About 12 left. And the 2 biggest ones that I think we have left are it would be Chicago Underground, Smodcastle, which is Kevin Smith's theater, and then the Trauma Dance would be cool. There's this other one called Cockleorious, but that's another big one. You know, who knows? But another thing that I did was that I made a TV special, which is like a 58-minute version of Video Dreams, and we submitted it to QPTV, which is public access television. And so that played once already, and it only plays in Queens. It's geolocked, if you will, to the Queens area. It's playing Friday the 17th at 7:30 p.m. and that will be the last screening. And that was like a fun experiment, which leads me to my next thing. Independent filmmakers out there, or if you're thinking of doing it, or if you've been doing it, one of the things is to really scour the web and look out for opportunities. So one of the things that's happened was we did this series called Late Night with Luann. Tim, I think, is a producer on it, but all the score was his. It was one of his last original scored pieces, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe not one of the last, but I think you did some other stuff. But this music was actually made for Monster Kill.
Yeah, specifically for these.
Yeah. And so the score is great. It's like really, really cool. And as I always said, Tim, the music is far better than the films themselves. Anyway, so what this was like it was homage to Up All Night, or like Trauma's Edge TV, or Monster Vision with Joe Bob Briggs. So it was these 2 characters, Luann and Double Dementia, and they're basically hosting movies. But the difference was they would host a movie, and then the movie. So I hired these independent film directors. Ken Powell was one of them. He made Groom of the Bigfoot. Another director made Merminators from Outer Space. That's my wife Stephanie Perez's title. And then Flying Snake Attack was my title. We hired a director to do that one. We did a fundraiser. I think we only raised about $2,000. So everyone only got about $500 to make the film. And so they only had to be about 10 or 15 minutes. So I see, if I was a young filmmaker, I would have loved that opportunity, because essentially they were given the ball. They're like, it's B movie, it's Flying Snake Attack, it's a B movie, it's Merminators from Outer Space. Here's $500. Just have fun with it, make it a movie, and just bring me back a 15-minute movie.
Yeah.
You know, so
it's not unlike doing a 48-hour film festival.
Yeah, it's very similar.
You're actually paid, so you have some resources to do the thing.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. And then essentially it should have, in my opinion, it should have all gone into props.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah. Or like they were able to shoot. I gave them a location with a big green screen. So they had locations, and they actually had gear as well. So they really had to just hire people and then do some props and whatever. And so Groom of the Bigfoot, I think, is the best, because Ken made this he shot it on green screen. So no matter his haunted forest, all the backgrounds look like cardboard cutout, like Blue's Clues. It's so good. I love it. Anyway, and then all the commercials are fake. I did all the commercials. It's like self-help and, shoe sales commercials.
From director Alan Smithy.
Yeah. Yeah. So the whole thing is, it was a series. It was like, I think 5 episodes we did for Trauma Now. And then, what was it, last year, I turned it all into one, like 16-minute, technically a feature. So, and it just kind of sat there. Trauma at the time, they weren't particularly impressed with it. Right. They were just like that, because they didn't ask for it. We just did it, and they're like, okay. And but I had it, and I because it was non-exclusives, so I turned it to an hour thing, and then it just kind of sat there. But Rhonda Shear, we got to interview Rhonda Shear for the new doc, which was amazing. Well, Rhonda Shear was launching this thing called Up All Night. So Up All Night Network. So it was Rhonda Shear's Up All Night. She's bringing it back as a Roku station, which is amazing. And they were looking for content, but all of our content is not tied up, but it's distributed through MVD and Trauma and a few other places.
Yeah. So there's red tape associated with who can get it and who can play it and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I had what I rebranded Late Night with Luann movie marathon, and I submitted that, and then they took it. They're like, "Oh, this is right up our alley," because it definitely is, because it was kind of made in that vein. And then Horror Hound TV right after that did the same thing. They launched their own channel. I think it's very similar Roku channel, and they sent out an email. We had played VHS Massacre 2 with Horror Hound, and they said, "Well, you were interested in VHS Massacre 2," but I was like, "Well, Trauma owns those, you know. I mean, they don't own those. They distribute it." Sorry, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
So Trauma did a great job putting out VHS Massacre 1 and 2, but I wasn't going to ask Trauma if, can I please play VHS Massacre for free on Horror Hound? Like, I'm just, that's not going to.
It probably wouldn't fly.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't. So, but I was like, I have this thing called Late Night Luann, and they're like, well, they were only reaching out to official selections from Horror Hound. I think that was their way of vetting stuff. But just recently, last week, they were like, hey, we opened up Horror Hound TV for submission. So long story short, too late. But everyone who's listening, if you go on Film Freeway, look up Horror Hound TV. If you want to submit a film to potentially be played on Horror Hound TV, you could submit your film for free.
It's awesome.
So that's another example of like just finding these opportunities, and from public access to Up All Night to Horror Hound TV can, you don't, in those cases, you don't even need a distributor or agent or any of that,
Right. There's probably little to no money involved with any of those transactions, but it is exposure, and it gets your art in front of people's faces, and it just perpetuates the possibility of you doing that more and more in the future, And
well, think of it just as like a resume builder. Let's say you made a horror short and you try to get into some festivals with some success, some not. Horror Hound is a major brand in the horror community. Everyone knows what that is. So if they played your short, it's not exclusive. They don't own it. Mm-hmm. You can place it any other place you want to do. But to have your film with premiering on Horror Hound TV, that's a major feather in the cap.
Sure. It's a milestone for the production and for the producer and the director and the team in general. It just, your work got accepted and played here. Great. It's the same concept and ideas behind our festival runs, right? If we can get into certain festivals and we can get some notoriety, even just official selection for some of them, it's an acknowledgement that the art meets a certain criteria, and we can speak to that end, right?
Yeah, it works. Film festival circuit works on so many levels because it gets people in the theater. It's a screening that you do not have to produce.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to market. You don't have to produce. You submit. You either get in, you don't. People come. They watch your movie. Then you could win something, or just like you said, getting in. It can be some prestige. So yeah. I mean that's basically what I have. I could talk about a little bit about Enter the Television, unless you wanted to jump in there and talk about something different.
No. Let's talk about Enter the Television a little bit, because we are kind of at a milestone crossroads with it in regards to the rough cut. Do we get into any details with that? We get into any of the weeds?
Yeah, I don't mind.
That's not an issue. Okay.
No,
I don't want to
speak
fine. To something you don't want to talk about, but
no, I mean it's so it has Rhonda Shear in it, Lloyd Kaufman, W. Rashawn, and then it's got like Bill D. Russell from Puppet Master and Greg from Fanzine, of course John Brennan from Up All Night and Last Drive-In, and it really looks at television commercials. This is something interesting. It's kind of a comparison of mainstream, let's call it corporate television commercials and programming versus independent commercials and programming. And what are the differences? And one of the main differences that I discovered is that So this guy, Edward Bernays, who was Sigmund Freud's nephew, he was like, I think they call him like the father of American advertising or something like that, television advertising or something. The beginning of TV advertising is basically Edward Bernays worked after World War I. He took war propaganda marketing and he helped convert it into American advertising. It wasn't initially, obviously TV was more 40s, 50s, but it was marketing. The the Abe, what's it called? Uncle Sam. It was like, I want you.
Yeah.
It was him and this other guy basically were the sort of godfathers of American advertising. But the thing that is upsetting is war propaganda was directly converted to American advertising. So it's like foundational. So it's not like, because you may be watching a contemporary commercial going, sometimes these commercials, they almost feel like propaganda. It's like,
there's a reason for that.
It was all propaganda converted to TV advertising. Anyway, I'm very careful about the research I do. So I'm probably like botching some of the history, but I assure you in the doc, I'm more organized. But this is why I'm not like a historian per se.
No, it's also our interpretation, right? Because we made a decision, Tom and I, to explore commercials that moved us in whatever emotional way we determine, right? Whether we're disgusted or appalled or amazed or overwhelmingly convinced to go out and just like race and buy something after 30-second thing. Like all those things it just brought back so many different memories from the 80s. And we've seen, just by exploring 4 decades, God, can't believe I'm that old, 4 decades of TV commercials and how that evolved and what tolerances were loosened over those years and what all the things that happened, all the evolution, and just understanding that at the end of the day, there's always a hidden agenda and a mission behind those things, and it might not be directly understood. A lot of times it's like a feeling, right? And that's usually the bigger products. They don't give a shit about showing you the product, right? Like the Nike swoosh comes at the end of this whole thing. And in the meantime, you have this like really inspiring thing happening with either an individual or an athlete or something, and they're sweating and they've like been defeated, and then they like ramp up and they meet the challenge and they win, and there's just like this emotional crescendo. It's like, black screen, whoosh. That's all you see, and that's all you need to see because you know exactly what that means, right? And
Yeah,
again,
and it's
just real direct.
It's blatant, but at the same time, there's an awful lot going on in that 30 seconds. And there's a high level of manipulation and
A lot of psychology.
Focus groups and psychology. And, it is propaganda. To contrast that with local commercials, and this is the thing I try to add a caveat, like their local commercials are not perfect. They have their own sales tactics. But the major difference, and seems very obvious, but I think I needed to state it directly. Local commercials are directly tied to their communities. They're often using employees or store owners in their commercials. And mostly they're saying, this is where our store is. These are our deals. Please come on down. Now, given like we showed one ad from Crazy Bruce's White House Liquors, it's like, he's selling booze. Carvel Ice Cream was independent up until 2000. It was independent business. I think it's national now, but it was just
Cookie
like,
Puss.
come on down for Cookie Puss.
Puss.
It's still selling ice cream because so in the doc, it's like, look, they're not telling you wine and ice cream is good for you, but they're just saying, come on down. So the corporate stuff, this is what I realized too. I'm sure this is in some textbook somewhere, but for me, it was a discovery, was that the corporate advertising are far disconnected from their communities. And because of the distance from the communities, that's why they have to rely on propaganda. So they rely on psychological tricks. They rely on, buying into your emotions or guilt or whatever, fear, all these things. They have to employ all this bag of tricks because they're so separate from the communities. So it's like that's the new case I'm trying to make. Because what I realized in the rough cut, we screened it to some people, and they're like, "This is fascinating," but it's like the 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 full circle wasn't drawn. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a massive disparity between big corporate commercials versus local guys. I mean, dude, Troy at the Bunny Barn is trying to sell your daughter a bunny. You know what I mean? And like, you gotta, like, he's local. He's got maybe a 50-mile radius where people are going to come and buy bunnies, right? This is not a real business, by the way. I'm just saying something off the top of my head.
I thought it
But
might have
like,
been. I was like, "What's this?" Oh, okay, go on.
Troy at Bunny Barn. No, but like, that guy has to be super surgical about his advertising because he has a finite amount of customers. I mean, I guess you could ship bunnies, right?
Yeah, yeah,
People ship chicks. You know, they ship chickadees.
yeah.
You know, like
Baby chicks. Yeah.
yeah, like that. They literally send them via mail. I don't know how they survive, but somehow they survive.
Wow.
And you're starting a chicken farm or something like that. You can like order 2 dozen and they just show up via UPS or something. It's crazy. But no, like more of those small businesses, like you said, it's really about, it's more about the value add of that community local person giving you that one-on-one customer service
Yeah.
versus a big corporate company that's selling you a feeling, right? And that's the difference. The difference is feeling versus satisfying an immediate need, per se. Because the bigger stuff is not an immediate need. Like, I don't need to feel that way necessarily every day, but after 30 seconds of watching an inspiring thing for Nike, I feel like I should go out and buy some kicks, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Whereas like like to think about Carvel, it was like they used to do a lot with like Fudgy the Whale, which I think had an association with the Whalers. I'm pretty sure it did
Yeah.
back in the day. But yeah, so who knows? So that was basically when we're talking about it, it probably seems very obvious, but like when it's like a feature length doc, to realize you needed to close the circle between contrasting the corporate and local commercials so that when you start to contrast the local public television or independent television versus corporate, that made sense as a doc. So it's closing all these loops, and so I think it's getting better, but
It most
yeah.
definitely is. The message is being clarified. That's this whole process. This is, I'd have to say, 80-90% of the work is this stage.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
You know,
it's a lot. Yeah, I mean, because it all has to make sense, and I don't know, it just there's not that many people who like puzzles like this, and I don't like Legos, but I'll
yeah,
do this, everyone's got
I
their
do.
own.
I do. I like Lego.
Yeah, but I like this. So anyway, the goal is also to try to think about the audience with films like this. You have to take that into account, and not to compromise anything like internally, uh, but to want to make it the absolute best and make it the clearest communicated, and to have it be true, you
Yeah,
know.
and to think objectively outside of ourselves, like, is this interesting?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Like as much as we can, because that's a hard ask, honestly, because the world is filtered all the time between, with our eyes and our experiences. There's just no way around that. But ultimately I have to think that way when I write a new genre or I write new music, and we have to think that way whenever we jump into a new project. Is it interesting to us? Okay, would it be interesting to somebody else?
yeah. And
You know?
that's similar thing with VHS Massacre. It was like, let's find the weirdest stuff we could find on VHS, but let's also talk about the decline of physical media and the American video store.
Right.
So Enter the Television was, let's find the weirdest possible commercials we could find. the weirdest stuff possible, and then kind of reverse engineer the story around it, not in a disingenuous way, but exactly where these commercials lead us.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's a more complicated puzzle, but what I think that does is I think that's why they're interesting. Whereas if you were going to do some dry textbook, the history of television commercials, that would be dry as a bone.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, we're
Yeah.
kind of doing like the more the trauma type,
Or
you know,
the experiential
yeah, yeah,
interpretation. You
yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, we're experiencing it for ourselves and documenting our reactions and our interpretation of what we're seeing, and then rounding that out with other industry, the several people we have that are guests and interviewees in the movie, in the doc, that literally speak to these things, right? They can speak to the evolution and in their own work. And I think that tie-in with the overarching thing between big corporate and local commercials, and then the overarching psychology between the both of them and the differentiation, like, it's all very, very interesting. And I think it's interesting from this standpoint that the average American is going to watch, the average person in general, globally, is going to watch programming, and invariably there's going to be times when that programming has commercials intermittent throughout it, or there's going to be product placement within that stuff, which is a whole nother part, aspect of the whole commercialization and of content and everything else. But the point I'm trying to make is that ultimately we're being manipulated 24/7, and it's, if nothing else, Tom, it's important for people to realize that A, it's happening, and B, what are some of the things that are being done so that we understand how our thoughts are and our desires are molded, and which ones are authentically ours and which are what we're kind of bamboozled into doing,
yeah, absolutely. And the doc, it invokes, right, Marshall McLuhan a lot, and there's a number of reasons. I mean, the guy was a super genius, but he has this concept of the rear view mirror. Nostalgia is a taste of things to come, and it's a way of predicting what's happening now. So a lot of the stuff, that we're showing in the doc, there's a coffee commercial. It's like Debbie Rashawn told me about it. It's like only basically the message is only good wives serve their husband. This type,
Folgers Instant or
Folgers
something,
Instant.
right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was like it's so directly trying to sculpt society. It's
Yeah.
not just about coffee, and it's
Yeah.
not just about selling a product.
Yeah.
And
And it speaks to the time. The
it for
the
sure,
misogyny of the male misogyny bit,
but there's
like, that's
yeah, yeah, for sure. But the point is, what happened then is happening now. The doc goes through this multiple times, saying, "Yeah, you see this now. You see what happens then. You see this now. You see the smoking ads with beautiful people lounging in hammocks by the sea. These are the same images of pharmaceutical commercials. So, and we see
right.
the manipulation of the, only this people drink, drink folders. We see this like on social media of, only cool people drive around in these Bugattis. You know what I mean? All like
Yeah.
it's a mirror. It's all a mirror of what's happening now.
Yeah.
So
Aspirational advertising, right? Like, it's evolved to, it's no longer just functional like, this is a good product, it'll make you healthy, blah blah blah, here you go. No, this is aspirational product. Yes, it's more expensive, but
yeah,
you want it
yeah.
because people will respect you more
Yeah.
because you have a Lexus versus a freaking, you know,
Yeah, fuck you, work harder. And that's what it is.
it's
That's all
really,
that
that's what
that's
it
all
comes
that
down
happened.
to.
Yeah, without giving away too much, there was a shift in American culture where it turned from time to make the donuts. I got to get up early and make these donuts because
Mm-hmm.
people are going to really want, these donuts. Given that the thing is that guy didn't make donuts, he was a fucking
Right.
actor. So
Right.
it's still a form of
I still
manipulation.
believe to this day he made the donuts. Fuck that shit.
That guy made all the donuts.
Yeah.
But
He was well casted.
it literally flipped after the Great Recession to fuck you, work harder. And that, and it among the corporate, that almost was
you like the Kardashians?
yeah.
Well, you're only going to buy their shit. You know what I mean? Like literally. And then all of a sudden, everybody wants, God, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now.
Yeah. But so, and then, so the other theme is this is an untethering from society. It's not reality. And it's just gone further and further this way. Corporations, the consolidation, they're delusional at this point with this type of marketing. And then the public is just treading water, So
it's funny. We haven't touched on this yet, and I'm going to say this out loud, even though it's on the podcast. But how much did reality TV affect this whole transition? Because reality TV, in and of itself, is not 99% of it is not that. It's scripted. It's engineered reality and circumstances either made to their worst or their best possible thing with contrived conflict shoved in between all of it. But a lot of reality TV is incredibly aspirational, right? It's not base needs. It's not everyman. It's not working class. It is high end, right?
yeah,
it's
bourgeois, right? It's bougie. And I mean, it was almost like a taste of what was to come with social media,
Yeah.
So I never enjoyed that stuff, but yeah. So anyway, the docs, I think it's going to be interesting. Even in this podcast, I think we brought up some little extra stuff that I think is of value,
Sure.
So yeah, we'll see. I imagine in my head, I have a couple weeks more work until I can place all the new narration and pieces and possibly reconnect. I have a lot of Adobe stock footage I have to pay for and insert. And I'm at least a few weeks away, but then I think we got to do another round of viewings. And then with luck, I think we'll be prepped for festivals early 2027.
Mm-hmm.
There are a number of
sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I think so. I felt, I feel bad. There's a few of them. Spirit of Independence in the UK played 2 of our films before, and they're like, "Hey, this is the last day to submit." It was like a general message. I was like, I was like, I'm just too far off. It's just too far away, and they gave a sad emoji, but
did they really?
Yeah.
I got to get my passport squared away, because if the UK keeps liking what we're doing, we did really well with Video Dreams in the UK. And now I definitely want to go see a screening over there with Enter the Television. If we,
oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Get over to London. Hey kids, Big Ben, Parliament,
Right. Vacation, Chevy Chase. Yeah, man. So, well, that's all I got. Hopefully there was something interesting there.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me, I like all this stuff.
No, I like doing these at least once a month, once a month where we do updates for folks on the podcast. It's definitely, again, originally the extension of our brands. The interviews are great as well. I love how that's evolved on here, but this is like the super way to communicate everything that's going on with you and I when it comes to movies and music production and everything else, and the festival runs and the things we're thinking about, things we're ideating on. Just you could see our process. I mean, we actually did podcasts about Enter the Television before we even had a definition as to what it was. And that's a fun aspect of how we do things. It's just we kind of share it with the community, and then it evolves into something that is now, a rough cut, ultimately a picture lock, and then we're distributing it, and we're like, oh wow, this is the thing.
Yeah, it should get there.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. But
yeah, I'm excited, man.
Yeah, got to keep busy. There are times.
Smod Castle.
So yeah, that would be,
be so awesome. Come on, Kevin.
But yeah, I mean, I
know it's not him. It's deciding, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, some good folks over there, though.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. But there are days or even weeks where I'm sitting there editing, And I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this? I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. The same thing happened with VHS 2, where it's
I
like,
remember
I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't think this is any good.
it was of the two, it was received even more so
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
the first one. And I think it's because it's the Empire Strikes Back of that series. There's something very emotional about some of the aspects of that iteration,
Mm-hmm.
and it spoke. I mean, it spoke stronger to me than the first one.
Yeah.
I love both of them, but do you know what I mean?
It's
Like,
clearer. Yeah.
yeah,
It's a cleaner message, I think.
I do. But dude, I do the same thing with music. Sometimes I sit down and I'm like, "Fuck, did I write this already? I kind of did, but I kind of like this. All right, I'm gonna release this." You know, like
Yeah.
I just art's a strange, strange bird, man. You gotta like you have to push through all your weird emotions and your like self-sabotage and your self-editing and everything and just get to the crux of the thing that you're trying to make and just say, okay, I don't care. You have to push that all aside, and you have to be somewhat of a freaking narcissist and egotistical and just be like, that's it. I'm putting this out there. It's the best I can do.
You know what I think it is? And I don't know if this is true, but I just thought about it. I think you have to to do this kind of work to produce in the the amount that we're both doing. You have to love yourself and you have to hate yourself. I think there's something about there's I think there's a masochistic thing
Definitely.
that there's something weird in your head being like, you're not going to stop, fuckhead. And just, and so there's a love of yourself and there's some narcissistic, there's also some hatred of yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to,
Like, dude, get it done. What do
yeah,
you like that's the stage I'm at right now with music for the year. It's like, all right, you've screwed off long enough, dude. You know, how rested do you need to be? Stop. Now you're just procrastinating and you know it. So get back to work,
yeah.
you know?
Well,
So that's where I'm at.
there is something about your inner monologue going, you are not fucking special unless you
Mhm.
prove that you're special.
That's right.
What is the only way? This could be the only way you could prove that you're worth fucking anything.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
there's a weird dichotomy of
Yeah.
like,
You want people to listen to you, you want people to appreciate your art, keep making it.
yeah,
Keep improving.
yeah,
Move forward. Find different avenues and different venues to propagate your art. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, that's IMDb is one of my next places. I'm going to start, DMing directly, one-on-one, independent filmmakers and stuff. Like, use my stuff, man. You look like you put out several horror films, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not even about the money at this. I just want people to use the product. I want the art to propagate, period. And
yeah,
I'm adding, I have this value to offer. Take it, you
yep,
know,
yep,
exciting. It's
yeah.
exciting stuff.
Well, I think that's a good note to end off on.
Yeah, man. All right.
Cool.
Well, we'll be in touch, everybody, real soon with the remainder of the festival run, and I'm anticipating once that's finalized, which is sometime this fall. I think October, November is the last one we're going to find out about. By then, we'll have turned the corner on Enter the Television to the point where I think we'll know when we're going to start. Or if we're not done, we'll be close enough to done that we'll be like, yeah, first maybe second quarter next year is going to start the run for that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's the beauty of this, man. Because once that happens, Tom and I are going to be doing this for 3 to 6 months, figuring out what the hell we're going to do next. So that's how it works.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
There are some ideas,
Yeah.
but who knows?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
All
everyone,
right.
thanks for listening, and we'll
See
see you
ya.
next time.